Welcome to the first episode of the Talk Sox Minor League Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm planning to cover all things minor league baseball within the Red Sox organization from the Fenway Greens to sunny Fort Myers this season. For those familiar with both the Talk Sox site and YouTube channel, you would know that Alex and Maddie do a fantastic job on the Talk Sox podcast, which the latest episode just dropped where they interviewed Nesson's very own Jemai Webster. So I'd recommend giving it a listen if you haven't. Alex and Maddie, they typically cover more along the side of the major league team, along with during the offseason moves they could make in predictions. The difference between that and this one is more along the lines of I will be covering the minor league side of the team, with Worcester starting their season this weekend against Syracuse. So this season, as I just kind of explained, we'll be doing a separate minor league centric podcast, something that we didn't do last year with the site, but we're going to try this year. And as you can guess from this introduction, it's going to be me covering it. For the Red Sox, their farm system this year may have dropped in various rankings around the league, but the future's still bright, especially when you look at the next wave of prospects that are beginning their development and forging their own path to the major leagues. While Roman Anthony, Marcel Meyer, Christian Campbell, those three are no longer considered prospect status, they have, how do I want to word this? They have reinvigorated the lower minor league levels with a lot of talented pitching and a few very exciting offensive prospects. And with that, this week, we'll be looking back on the spring breakout game, which was played almost a week ago now. It was last Friday, March 20th. It was a very good game, and it took place between the Red Sox prospects and the Baltimore Orioles prospects. The Orioles were the home team, and the game was played in Sarasota. And we're kind of going to go after that into rundown of what to expect for the opening day rosters. AAA has pretty much some surprises not really happened there, as their roster needs to be announced pretty soon. Their first game is Friday at 4:00. And with that, next week, the season begins for AA, High A, and Low A, as they will all begin play on April 2nd. Though, because the Complex League, it's not going to start until May 2nd. I'm not going to really break down those rosters of what I think is going to happen, mainly because that's a long way away. Complex League, some guys will be rehabbing down there, and it will be for a bunch of younger guys that are coming over from the Dominican, and also some guys who did not play last year after getting drafted, or I should say did not play in affiliate ball. So because of that, I'm not really going to go too much into the Complex League right now. That will be something touched upon more once we get to that point of the season. But before we really get into things, there are some updates regarding players within the Red Sox organization. First reported by Sox prospects Andrew Parker on Monday, the Reds released two minor league outfielders in Corey Rozier and Philip Sykes. Honestly, neither outfielder is too big of a loss. They were more organizational depth at this point. But besides that, they're nice players just to have around in the organization, but with the way that the minor league system works, you can only have so many players in your system. And with that, the Red Sox chose to keep other guys over them. And I'm not going to lie, when you have an ability to only carry so many players within the organization, you have to decide which ones you really want to choose. They've been releasing quite a few minor league guys earlier in the season. One guy that I was surprised by was Noah Dean, who is recovering from an injury. He got released, which surprised me. Tyler Miller was another guy who got released. The team has moved on from a couple former top international signings of theirs as well. So we're just at that point of the beginning of the season where they got to get rid of a few guys in the minor leagues to keep others that they have brought in either on minor league contracts or, international signings, which the international signing guys will be pretty much playing either in the Dominican or at the complex. So those ones really don't have a big impact on the roster, I guess, when you really think about it. But with that out of the way, let's get into the actual topic of this week's episode, the spring breakout game. I'm sure anyone who has followed the Red Sox this week, and I guess I should really say last week along with this week, anyone who's followed that and who follows prospects know all about the spring breakout game. It's a new, well, I was going to say it's a new thing, but I guess really it's not new in the sense of this is its first year, but it's new to the sport where they've made actual games centered around the team's top prospects. For the Red Sox, this was a great opportunity, in my opinion, as we got a chance to see all three of their top pitching draft picks from last year. And we also got to see Jake Bennett pitch again. Yes, Bennett had been pitching in the major league camp all spring training up until this point, but it's still nice to see him pitch, especially when I was able to go down there and watch the game live. I got to see Bennett pitch from a good angle. I got to see Witherspoon, Valera. I got to see Ianson, and of course Phillips. Can't forget him either. All five of them, tremendous pitching, and it has me very excited for where the Red Sox organization is heading on a pitching standpoint. So, of course, as I was saying, each of them pitched very well. Even though the team lost 3-1, you can't really blame them too much. I mean, how do I want to? I won't lie. They pitched great. Valera got out of trouble in some innings. And Witherspoon, he might have been the one that I feel like, even though he was great, might have had the hardest time when it didn't come to luck. But of the five, Anthony Ianson, he caught my eye. Probably the best one who pitched out of the five guys. And he only threw one inning. During his one inning, he got his fastball up to 100.2 miles per hour, which on the night, that's the second fastest behind Valera. Valera, I believe it was like 100.6, I want to say. Give me 1 second to double check that. Yeah, it was like 100.6. So anyway, when you're thinking of it this way, the Red Sox pitching was so great with velocity that night. You're going to think I'm making this up, but take a look at this. It might be a little hard to see. I'm sorry about that. Right there, that's the Red Sox for velocity. And I didn't take a picture of it all, but that's also for their velocity. For the night, the Red Sox had 49 of the 50 fastest pitches thrown in the entire game. And of those 49 pitchers, they were all at least 96 miles per hour. So whatever they're doing in their pitching lab, this pitching program is very much focused on velocity and adding it, because Ianson, he topped out at 100.2 miles per hour, as mentioned. Whether that's because he knew he was only throwing an inning, or this is the payoffs of everything they've been working on. When he was in college, he averaged roughly around 93 to 95 miles per hour. He topped out at 100.2. That's a huge jump for him. But to get back to the point on Ianson, even with a fastball that topped out at 100.2 miles per hour, I think his curveball was what really struck out to me. Stuck out to me. I already had my thoughts going before I even had the words out, but it stuck out to me as he struck out all three batters he faced on the curveball. And on top of that, he got 16 inches of drop on it and 6 inches of glove side run. Like, this is great. He's already got, he's entering his first year. He's going to have some work to do. But if he can pitch like that, top out at 100 miles per hour when needed, and constantly break off this curveball like he did, this thing was breaking away from righties and in towards left-handed batters. And just like how he put on a good showing, it's just like, it's amazing. Like, the Red Sox, since Craig Breslow took over, they're finding these pitchers. They have elite extension for the most part. There's some exceptions to that, but they're getting these guys, they're bringing them in, and they're turning them into these hard-throwing pitchers. You got Ianson, Valera, Tolley. Early's picked up velocity in the past year. You got Phillips, who throws as hard as anything. Bennett has picked up velocity. Like, this team is going to look good. And this is after a 2024 season where they didn't really throw a fastball as much as, like, most teams. Like, they're turning things around. No, I misspoke there. I wouldn't say turning things around, but they're creating a genuine pitching pipeline. Nothing that we've seen before with this organization, in a sense. Because before Early and Tolley last year, who were the last genuine Red Sox starting pitchers they developed. Lester and Buchholz, maybe? Because I can't think of anyone from between then to now that turned into a starter that we all got excited about and could picture being in the rotation for multiple seasons. But now, Tolley, Early, Witherspoon, Phillips, Ianson, Valera, Bennett. That's 7 guys right there, and like that's not even including who's already in the rotation on the major league side with Crochet, Bayo, Suarez, like even Oviedo, who is opening the year in the bullpen because there is so much pitching. But I digress. I keep getting off topic. So with it, Jake Bennett, he was just as good. And I want to say he did an excellent job thanks to the pitch calling from Nate Baez, who Baez did a tremendous job defensively. He was able to keep the pitchers settled down when he was in the game. He made great pitch calls, everything. But Bennett, he started the game and he tossed 2 shutout innings. I will say there was one mistake he made, and it wasn't really too bad because it didn't turn into much. But the very first batter of the game, he allowed a single on a pitch that was crushed. It was 106.6 miles per hour off the bat. But fortunately, the launch angle of it was off when it was grounded into the ground and hit for a single into right field. That was it. That was his one mistake of the whole game. And it was just for a single. I will say, though, if the ball was attacked at the right launch angle, it could have been very dangerous. But for him, it was not. It was on the ground. Only hit of the night that he gave up. Offensively, I won't lie. There wasn't much to talk about during this game. The team scored a single run. As you know, they lost 3-1. And it was on a solo homer by Henry Godbelt. Godbelt's a guy that I'm very high on this year, especially after spending the entire offseason working with the Red Sox bat speed program. Coming out of college, I won't lie, draft night, when they first called the name, I did not know who he was. But that night I looked into him and I said, this guy could be an interesting prospect. And then I kept digging more and I said, you know what, this is the kind of guy the Red Sox like to go after position-wise. And he did pretty well in Greenville. He didn't play much. He got into, how many games was it? Was it like 20 or something? No, 13 games. He got into 13 games, and in that span, he hit 341, 341, 473, and a 477 for average OBP and slugging. Now, he only had 6 doubles, but that was roughly close to a third of his hits on the year. 5 RBIs. He walked 9 times. He's got a good eye. He's going to be 22 years old this year. He's a guy that I'm very high on. I think he's going to do very well. He has shown a lot more power this spring thanks to the adjustments he worked on. And I expect him to return to Greenville to begin the year. I'd be surprised if he isn't promoted to Portland. I mean, yeah, it's a little crowded on the infield right now, but I think the team make room for him if they feel he's ready to move up to Double-A. Other key details from the game, Mikey Romero had the hardest hit ball at 109 miles per hour. If you want to look there, again, I'm sorry if it's a little hard. I will fix this for the next one so that the images are the correct size. Again, my apologies, but he had the hardest hit ball at 109 miles per hour. It was a ground out, but you like to see balls hit hard. I mean, again, if he can change the angle that he's attacking it just a little, instead of a ground out, maybe he's got a double, maybe he's got a triple, maybe he's got a home run. And something with him was he actually ended up with 2 of the top 7 hardest hit baseballs in the game as he lined out again in the 4th at 102.8 miles per hour. Like, you can't hit the baseball much harder than 102.8 and 109 miles per hour and make outs. Other players who impacted the ball, Indy Azekar, who is another prospect I am extremely high on, especially if he can start lifting the ball more. He's someone that I think, should he be able to lift the ball, he could move through the system fast. He singled in the 2nd, and Alan Castro, who is someone that I'm starting to get very impressed with, and someone who, after 2024, I kind of lost interest in. He turned it around in 2025, and in the spring training moments that he had, he's got me interested in seeing how he does this year. He had 2 outs this game, uh, 99.2 and 99.3 miles per hour. Again, I like seeing the ball hit hard. And with Castro, he's someone that we're going to talk about later in this, so we'll hold off on much more. Yeah, the lineup, it failed to capitalize on the game, but they were facing the Orioles' best pitchers. And the O's, while their farm may not have been viewed much like how it was when they had a bunch of these guys come through, the Orioles always have a good system, in my opinion. They develop well, and because of that, I'm not too worried about our younger offensive players struggling against their best pitchers. Though someone who did not struggle, much to my surprise, Marvin Alcantara. He's someone who impressed me on both sides of the ball. He ended up hitting a double during the game, and it was a pretty well hit ball. He took advantage of a pitch that was just left up over the plate, and he sent it out into right field for a double. Of course, he got stranded there, but the way that he hit it and went with the pitch, it impressed me because he's not exactly known for hitting, or at least he's more known for his glove than his bat. So to see him be able to do stuff like that, I like. I hope he has a good offensive season this year, and he can take from what he's worked on in spring training and put it towards his plate appearances this year with Portland. However, the more important part with him was his big defensive plays. He ended up making a great tag during the game on a stolen base attempt. Nate Baez threw down, and it was a tough play to get the tag, but he held on to the ball, and he managed to tag out the runner despite it. And it ended up being big because, if I'm remembering the inning correctly, after that, they ended up getting a guy, I want to say, onto third base with 2 outs. So had they not got him out, they would have scored a run. And of course, like I said, Nate Baez, catcher who threw the runner out, great defensively during this game, great pitch calling, way to work with the pitchers. And really, they didn't steal much. They didn't even try much after that. So he did a good job of holding the runners on. Quick little tidbit about the offense. They went 4 for 31 with 14 strikeouts. That feels like a number that you would see from like the 2020 Red Sox or even the 2023 or 2024 at time Red Sox. But again, these are young position players playing against the Orioles' best pitchers. Later in the game, I will say there was a weird situation that confused me. And from what I heard, I'm going to mispronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Gerardo Rodriguez. He singled, and this was about the 7th inning. He singled, and then he was forced to be removed from the game. The Orioles argued, from what I understand, that he wasn't substituted correctly into the game, and so they took him out, and the Orioles kind of were sticks in the mud, for lack of a better saying, and not wanting to say anything too vulgar, I guess, where it's a minor league spring training game to show off prospects. Are we really going to argue and complain that a defensive substitution was not done correctly when it doesn't matter? We're not going to the World Series. We're not going to the playoffs. It doesn't determine home field advantage in anything. It's a fun exhibition game to showcase prospects. But whatever. And because of that, some guys didn't get into the game. Nelly Taylor Jr. didn't get in. What is it? I believe Yoenis Cespedes, he only got like 1 at-bat in the 9th inning instead of getting into the game. It was, in my opinion, it's dumb of the Orioles to argue that. Just let the kids play. Let the fans see the top prospects. And yeah, there's no need to argue it. But let's get back to the pitching. Witherspoon, Valera, Phillips, all looked great. Witherspoon, I won't lie, his 2nd inning, not as good as his first. I don't know if it was because of facing the talent of hitters that he was at the time. Remember, he didn't get into affiliate ball last year, which the Red Sox don't send many of their pitchers to do that anymore. They'd rather have them work at the complex. And is compound the right word too? I mean, it is the Florida compound for the Red Sox. I digress. Anyway, they had them pitch at the complex, and with it, that was about it last year. They got back into baseball shape, got ready for spring training in a sense, and they started to learn what it was like to be a professional athlete. This year, he will pitch for an affiliate team for the first time in his career. but he did not make it through his 2 innings. He was scheduled to pitch 2 innings, and he ended up getting pulled after an inning and 2/3. He threw 39 pitches, so I feel like his pitch count was the reason why he was pulled. They probably wanted to see him get through the 2 innings, even with the trouble in his second inning, but because of the pitch count, they probably wanted to play it safe. His fastball was also pretty good. It topped out at 98.1 miles per hour, but I do wonder if adrenaline might have done that, and maybe just fatigue from all the pitches led to his fastball dropping in velocity. Because in his first inning, he had a fastball that averaged roughly 97.3 miles per hour, down to 94.4 miles per hour in his second inning. Like, that's nearly a 3 miles per hour drop. So it makes me wonder what was going on there. I personally think it was probably just adrenaline in the first inning that had him so pumped that when the second inning came, he lost a little bit. But of course, I'm just a fan sitting in the, sitting outside the field. I don't know what's going on. Um, Along with that, the fastball was the only pitch of his that was hit. He gave up 3 hits off of it and an average exit velocity of 101.4. So I don't know, maybe the batter saw it better than his other pitches, or maybe there just wasn't as much gas to it, especially in the second inning. Though, even with those 3 hits at that amount of speed, he really looked great out there. Like, yeah, okay, it's his first real outing against some guys that are top prospects. It's a lot different than a minor league backfield game. And it's just like, you can't even be too disappointed. You can only be amazed with how these young guys did. Valera, he came out and he worked out of danger in both of his innings, leaving runners stranded in scoring position. Of course, out of his 20 strikes, he only had 2 whiffs, but he was still able to get batters to swing at his pitches and not just watch them. Fastball and sinker both sat in the upper 90s the entire time. And earlier I said 100.6. I was wrong. I got it up in front of me now. I found it 100.5 miles per hour. I was close, off by 0.1, but close is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Phillips is the pitcher I did feel like received the worst luck out of all of them, because he pitched a lot better than his stat line. If you're just a box score watcher, you'd think he'd struggle, but he was just the recipient of so much bad luck. His outing starts with back-to-back hits, and it's not even hard ones. Literally, he gives up 1 hit that had an exit velocity of under 90. It was like 80. I don't have the number in front of me. It was something like 89.8 or 89.9 miles per hour. I can't remember, but I know it was under 90. And the other ends up being a soft infield grounder that no one can make a play on just because of how slow it was. And one thing I will give him, despite having 2 runners on to begin the inning, he showed he could remain composed and he could continue to focus on the batter that's in the box and not worry about everything else going on. Because what he ends up doing next, it shows that he's a lot, what's the word? He's a lot, mentality-wise, he's a lot older than what his actual age is. He's going to be 21 this year, but he did not pitch like a 21-year-old out of college. He settled down. He never got rattled. He didn't lose his composure. Instead, he goes and he gets the first batter out after giving up back-to-back hits with a strikeout. And then he gets the second batter out on a strikeout. So right now he goes from 2 on, nobody out, to 2 straight strikeouts. You got 2 on, 2 outs, and it almost looks like he's about to get out of it. He gets ahead 0-2 against this next batter, and then he gives up a little soft hit. Goes into right field, and it's hit so shallow that, I'm sorry, not shallow, but it's hit so soft that both runners score with 2 outs. Of course, Phillips is also partially responsible for why they were both in scoring position. Realistically, it should have been first and second with 2 outs, but the Orioles ended up having second and third, 2 outs, because the last pitch to the batter for his second strikeout, Phillips ends up, it's very low. It's in the dirt. He gets the batter to chase a slider that's in the dirt. And let's see, yeah, here it is. All right, so it's a little bit hard to see again. I apologize, but this bottom one, all the way at the bottom of the strike zone, or not even the strike zone. I'm sorry, right above the pit, right above home plate. He gets the batter to chase that, but it's such in the dirt that runners both advance. Which again, you take that trade. You allow the runners to advance to get that second strikeout. Unfortunately, it did not work out. Otherwise, I don't feel like there's much more to touch on when it comes to the spring breakout game. Again, my big positives, all 5 pitchers. Fantastic. I can't wait to see them across the full season. Bennett is the opening day starter for Worcester, so that will be a good one. I can't wait to see him pitch again. Witherspoon and Ianson are going to go to Greenville, and Phillips will start in Salem, which surprises me because I really thought Phillips would go to Greenville with the other two, but it seems like the Red Sox are going to take their time with him and let him work on a couple other things. Otherwise, I wasn't too impressed with Justin Gonzalez on the night. I am still extremely high. He's one of my top position prospects this year, but I really wanted to see him hit a ball hard. Instead, I saw him go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Mikey Romero, again, despite going hitless, looked great at the plate. I'm excited to see what he can do as well. Romero is someone that, when he was drafted, I was high on him. And then in 23, because of his injuries, I kind of thought his value had dropped. 24, I started to get back on the bandwagon a little. And then last year, I fully got back on. And now this year, I want to see what he can do with the full season at Worcester where he's completely healthy. Because he's a left-handed hitter. The ball, though it doesn't fly as much as it did the first couple years in Worcester, it can still fly in that park. And if he takes advantage of the Worcester wall in right field, he could be someone who could be an offensive juggernaut down there in Worcester. Someone who, even if he doesn't make it to Boston, which I think he will play a role at some point this year, he could turn into an interesting trade chip. Again, Alan Castro, someone who I have grown to very much like. He put the ball in play every time he was at bat, and he will also be opening the year in Worcester. Again, I could beat a dead horse and keep talking about the pitching, or we could move on to the rest of the session's topics, which, with that, I'm going to transition into the first iteration of a session I'd like to call 3 Up. Well, really, I want to call it 3 Up, 3 Down, but for this first one, I only want to do 3 Up because we haven't really seen much of the prospects to be able to do 3 Down. The way that this works is each video, or I don't want to call it video, but each podcast episode, I will pick 3 players that have me excited, who I feel like their stock is trending up, and 3 that I've lost a little bit of interest and their stock is going down. In my mind, anyway. These are all personal picks, nothing else. But again, like I said, because of it being spring training and their minor league season's not officially starting yet, I really don't want to pick 3 down because there's not much to go off of. Instead, I'm only going to do the 3 up. And with that, maybe you guys will agree with me. Maybe you'll disagree and you'll say I made awful picks. Who knows? But yeah, the point with the 3 down is maybe they've struggled. Maybe they've been jumped on the depth chart. The 3 up, I want to give props to guys who are playing well and who are, making themselves known. They're giving themselves a chance to get promoted later in the season, and maybe they're turning around their rankings on prospect boards. But first player that I'm high on entering 2026, Luke Heyman. Heyman's a catcher they got from Seattle back at the non-tender deadline the Rule 5 draft protection deadline. I'm sorry, mixing up them. It was the Rule 5 draft protection deadline. They got him for Alex Hopp, or Hoppy. I could never pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry, Alex, if you ever see this clip. They got him for him from Seattle. He was drafted in 2025. And he did not play affiliate ball last year. So I would not be surprised if he opens the year in Salem. But the thing with Luke, we only saw small bits of him playing on the backfields thanks to Sox prospects. They do an excellent coverage of minor league baseball. They're down there. They're able to get recordings of things that no one can really get into and see. Because, like, for an example, I was down there the spring breakout weekend. I tried to stay for a minor league baseball game. I got kicked out. They they really don't let people stay. So the fact that Sox prospects can do that, I am so grateful for it. So that I can see clips of like Luke Heyman crushing pitching against the Minnesota Twins minor league teams. Because this kid, I think he could be very great offensively. Let me take. I just realized I left Phillips pitching up there. Let me take that off. All right. So again, getting back to it, Luke Heyman came from Seattle. He's a catcher. They definitely targeted this offseason a bunch of minor league catching because they did not like the catching room that they had in the organization. They wanted to address that. It was a weakness, and they brought in a bunch of guys. Will all of them work out? Of course not. It never works out like that. No one's going to bat 1,000. Could Luke be one of them that does work out? I think so, because some things that stick out right away. He has amazing power. He pulls the ball, and he pulls the ball in the air at a high rate. Why is that good? First off, if he ever gets to Fenway and he's pulling the ball in the air, he is destroying the monster. So it's going to come down to, can he hit well enough to make it to the majors? Because his power will play in Boston. It's just how it is. He could very well be a menace at the plate. And then defensively, it's a question mark right now if he stays at catcher. He's a big guy. He's 6'4", 220 as of right now. He's 22. He's probably not going to grow much more. But still, a 6'4" catcher, that I don't know if he'll last behind there. And though, because of his size, though, he also kind of has a lack of mobility from what I've read about him, which is where it makes you wonder, is the team going to view him as a catcher of the future? Because really the only positive defensively for him is his arm. Yeah, he's improved behind the plate, but if he's not going to be able to move well, and if he's going to, if his size is going to hinder him, they may look to put him at first base, which he did play a little in college. He's only 22, so they're going to give him some time to, try and see if he can stick at catcher. So, I mean, it could end up being another Nathan Hickey situation where he plays catcher through the lower level of the minors, I should say. And then when he gets up to like Worcester, if he gets up to Worcester with the team, you never know. They would start to switch him to like first base. That's just my thought. I wouldn't be surprised if he opens the year with Salem this year, just because he did not get into any affiliate baseball. And it would also give him a chance to play a lot of innings at catcher. I mean, I feel like it would be him and Adonis Guzman who would be splitting the catching duty. The other would probably be DHing. And I think he would get more innings there than if he was to go to high A right now. But that's just my thought. I could be completely wrong. But with it, the second one, Blake Wehunt. For those familiar with our site, you would know that we had Blake on during the offseason for a interview shortly before Christmas. 2025 was a little bit of a letdown, if you ask me. Not because he pitched poorly, but because an injury affected his pitching. He ended up missing a bit of time last year. He only got into 17 games, 16 of them starts. And you could tell after the injury, he was still being affected by it. He couldn't push off as well. And again, he went 2-8, 5.68 ERA with Portland, only 63 in the third innings. But despite that, he still got his strikeouts. He got 76 strikeouts. So his pitching, there's potential there. It's, can he stay healthy, and can he stay on the right track and put everything together? If we look at his last two performances, including the Futures at Fenway game, Futures at Fenway South game and his start against the Tampa Bay Rays, he flashed his potential, and that is what makes me think he's going to have a big year. He's going to be pitching his age 25 season. He was a 9th round pick in 2023, so this is a big season for him because he'll be Rule 5 eligible after this year. And, he's throwing 97 this year in spring training, so I want to believe he's back to full health. He puts everything together, and he looks like how he did Friday, March 20th against the Rays. And I don't think he'd be in Portland for long, maybe half the year. end of June, early July, I think, if he pitches how he did against the Rays. Um, Against the Rays, he wasn't perfect. He went 4 innings, gave up 3 hits, and 1 earned run. He also struck out 3, and he walked a batter. You know, for his first time against like a major league lineup, even as bad as the Tampa Bay Rays lineup, he did good. He did all right. He got some whiffs, but there were mistakes for him. One is he had a couple sliders that were hung during the first inning. He was fortunate to have the first one swung and missed, but the second one, which came to Caminero, he made him pay. He drove in a run with it, and one thing they got to work on is his ability not to hang his pitches. But despite that, I was impressed. He had great movement on his pitches. His sinker, slider, and changeup all broke at least 13 inches horizontally, which you love to see. And like I said, he did hang a couple sliders, but no one's perfect. You're going to make a mistake here and there. You just got to know not to let it be to the other team's best hitter. Again, we hunt someone that I'm very much looking forward to. He's got the potential. I just hope he can stay healthy. In the third one here, in the final one, Alan Castro. We've talked about Castro before. He's someone that I felt he very much took advantage of the lack of outfielders at the start of camp. I mean, him, Braden Ward, and Christian Campbell, all three of them took advantage of the lack of outfielders, even if they all did not play well. He managed to get into 20 games, and in his first spring training, he hit a respectable 263, 317, 395. He's 20. He was 22. He's going to be 23. I almost said he's going to be 22. I'm a year off with him. And despite being only 23, he looked very well out there. He did not look overmatched at times. Like I said, he's going to open the year in Worcester, and I don't think he's going to make it to Boston this year. And honestly, unless there is some crazy unforeseen situation, I don't see him playing in Boston at all. I think what ends up happening, and I hate to say it, but it's just how it is. He's going to play very well at AAA, and he's going to turn himself flip for a player to improve the major league roster at the trade deadline. And it's just what I see. There's a logjam of outfielders. I mean, they've already got 5 outfielders on the major league roster. And that's including Yoshida, who's probably not going to play the outfield. But the 5 outfielders, Duran, Rafaela, Abreu, Roman Anthony, Yoshida. And then on top of that, you have Nate Eaton, and you have Christian Campbell. That's 7 outfielders already on the 40-man roster. And if I have to make a guess, if they're going to call up an outfielder that's not on the 40-man roster, they're probably going to go with Ward before Castro just because of his speed. And also, if you want to get technical, Nick Sogard has played the outfield too, but obviously he's not meant to be an outfielder. He's more of a utility infielder who can give you a game or two in the outfield. But that's kind of the end of the first session of 3 Up. Next time we have our episode, we will also do 3 Down. But like I said, I didn't want to go too negative when we don't really have much to go off of. So with that, we're going to go to the last segment of this episode, which is kind of looking at how we think the rosters are going to go, at least to open the year. And we're going to start down for the inaugural season of the Low A Salem Ridge-Yaks. Honestly, I'm not upset that they are no longer the Salem Red Sox. I can understand each minor league team wanting their own identity and this and that, but I won't say the Ridge-Yaks. It's an interesting name, but I love the logo. Man, I am always combining words and whatever. So we're looking at it. Pitching wise, I honestly think their rotation is going to be made up of like everyone who was drafted last year. Or let me rephrase that. Their rotation is going to be made up of 5 guys who were drafted last year. We know Phillips is going to be down there. They're going to put him in the rotation. He's not going in the bullpen. They want to see if he can last in a rotation. Other guys that I think could be in that rotation, Miles Patton. He was fifth round, I think? No, I'm sorry, seventh round. Dylan Brown will probably be there. He was an eighth round. These are two lefties. So Phillips, Patton, and Brown, that's already three people. I'm not too sure who else. Probably Barrett Morgan. He is an interesting guy that they drafted. 11th round pick. Which is actually going to be interesting that they put him in the rotation if they do, because in college he was a relief pitcher. He was a closer. But I think what ends up happening is they want to see probably if he can last in the rotation, because he can top out at 97 and he throws strikes. The only problem is, are they just going to see if he can last because last year when he was in college, 16 games, 21 and a third innings, 0.42 ERA, and 40 strikeouts. I think they want to see if his stuff can play in the rotation. But that's just me. I honestly would not be surprised if he's more in the bullpen. But this guy throws hard and he strikes guys out. Someone who I'm biased on this one but I think maybe oh wait, how can I be biased? I already said he was in it. Marcus Phillips. I'm sorry. Forget what I was saying. That was a brain fart. But yeah, those Phillips, Patton, Brown, they're three that I'm assuming are going to be in the rotation. Maybe Alex Bouchard, because he's coming off injury and they want to see what he can do. Last year he was in the rotation for Salem when he finished his rehab at the complex. So that will be interesting. So those four probably. Jose Bayo, the last remaining piece from the Rafael Devers trade, he's expected to open the year on the IL. Bullpen-wise, I don't know many guys down there. It's going to be a bunch of young kids. Maybe Christian Fauch, Jacob Mayers. Again, these are guys that they got in the draft last year. I'm sorry, I'm not too well versed on all of the pitchers that are in Salem, but one guy that I think will probably be in the bullpen, Jason Gilman. He's an interesting one. For those of you, again, who are familiar with the site, he was another guy that we had on and we interviewed over the offseason. Even he admitted he did not throw hard when he got drafted. He was about 90 to 93. So this is why I'd be surprised in the bullpen. Not really surprised, but why I would expect the bullpen over the rotation, even though he is someone who has a track record of going deep into games. He threw 112 innings his last year in 15 games, and he struck out 150. I think they want to see more working on pitches first and having him face competition. So that's why I think he'll be in the bullpen. Besides that, Patrick Gall, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, PJ Labriola. But offensively, I definitely think we're going to see guys like Adonis Guzman, D'Angelo Ortiz, Starlin Nunez, and of course, my guy, Azakar. He's going to start in Salem again. He's young. He's only 19, so it would be foolish, especially since he struggled to end the season in Salem. He hit 202, 273, 314. But of course, he was 18 years old. He was one of the youngest kids in that league. I think this year he's going to show some improvement and definitely look a lot better. Other guys, Luke Heyman, like I said, Andrew Zapata. These guys are people that I'm expecting there. So we're going to move on just because, I can't really go too in depth. But Greenville is the team that I'm most excited for this season outside of Worcester. So Greenville, they've got Rodriguez catching. Antonio Anderson's on the roster again. One of my favorite prospects, Henry Godbout, is going to be there. Nizan Zanatello, someone who I am very much hoping has a great season. Former high draft pick, and he has just not worked out offensively. And I'm almost worried it's starting to become a mental thing with him at this point. Like, he got drafted. He was a second round pick back in 2023. And this was out of high school. He was committed to go to Arkansas. And instead, he signs with Boston. 23, he struggles a little bit at the complex. Hits 139, but he gets on base at a 311 clip. And so they have him finish the season at Salem. He plays one game. 2024, he returns to Salem as a 19-year-old, and he just struggles. 78 games, hits 7 home runs, 21 RBIs, and he strikes out 151 times in 78 games. Finishes the year hitting 156, a 279 on-base percentage, and a 279 slugging. Like, this is a kid that you can't help but root for and hope that he turns it around, because he has so much talent, and he's just unable to put it together right now. Again, I think it's just kind of a mental thing for him. And now that he's going to be 21, well, technically he's still entering this year. At 20, he'll be 21 at the end of May. I think this will be the year that he starts to turn it around a little. Last year, he hit slightly better, slightly in 82 games with Greenville. High A now, not low A. He hit 173, got on base at a 309 clip, but he only slugged at 275. So his home runs dropped. He didn't hit as many triples, but he also struck out less. He struck out 132 times, and he walked 52 times. So he got on base more. So you like to see that. So I'm hoping this year he takes another step forward. But he got drafted as a shortstop. He's probably not going to play short or second, because they got Henry Godbelt, who will play second, and they got Mason White, who they drafted last year, who will play short. So both of those. You'll probably have Yoferi Rodriguez, the main piece, or I can't even say he's the main piece. I believe Hollabetz was the main piece, but Rodriguez, he'll be in the outfield. Isaiah Jackson, who they got from the Angels for Vaughn Grissom, he'll be there. My guy Justin Gonzalez will be there, and Yolin Cespedes should, I would assume, open the season there. I mean, he'll be 20. He turns 21 in September. And he did struggle a little in Salem. That is true. But I think getting him into Greenville will help his offense. But I don't know. I could be wrong. So I'm hoping I'm not. If you were paying attention, I do not have Garcia as the starter. I have Rodriguez. I think the team is going to want to get Rodriguez the bulk behind the plate. Garcia, I'm not ready to give up on, but you got to admit, his value took a hit because of that injury back in 24. Here's hoping that he can bounce back in a full season. He did not look awful last year, but, in baseball, if you don't perform, you're going to get replaced, especially when you're in the lower level of the minors, I should say. His power, undeniable. I remember I was there last year in Greenville. The week before the trade deadline, he had an amazing walk-off home run. It was crazy. But other guys that I think will be there include Hudson White, who will be back for a second year. I think it's only 2 there. I'm sorry, he was there in 24 as well. My apologies, Hudson. But this will be for second full season. Other guys include draft picks Jack Winay and Skylar King, who were in 2025 draft picks. King, I believe, finished the season last year with Greenville. Winay only played with Salem. Yeah, King did play, because I remember No, he didn't. Oh, what am I forgetting? Oh, okay, never mind. Why did I think he played? I don't know. Anyway, Maximus Martin, another guy that we had on for an interview, he will be there. There's no way he won't be. Probably, I would hope to see him up into Portland if he plays well enough that year. But now this is what everyone wants to hear. Listen to this possible rotation idea. Juan Valera, Kyson Witherspoon, Anthony Ianson, your big 3 right there. Now that That would be great. Now, on top of that, the rotation could be finished with any other two pitchers of like Leighton Finley, Austin Ehrlicher. You could have Joey Gartrell. You could have Devin Futrell. Uh, Jojo Ingracia, who I think will probably end up in the bullpen. Like, think of all those guys. That would be one of the greatest rotations in high A baseball. And that's not even including a guy like probably Brandon Neely, who is he going to be in the rotation or is he going to be in the bullpen? Who knows? Because there's so much. It's probably going to be like Portland's rotation last year, where they have a rotation of 5 guys and they got 5 piggyback guys so they can have like all their innings come in. But other guys who will probably be there, Griffin Killander, Stephen Brooks, Eric Rivera, Calvin Bickerstaff. Like these guys are all going to be there. They all got to get innings. If you're a fan of pitching and of minor league baseball, Greenville Drive for at least April and May is going to be fantastic. Now we get into a little bit of the higher parts of it. The Portland Sea Dogs. Their season officially begins April 3rd, which, correction to myself earlier, I thought it was the 2nd, but I'm looking at their schedule right now. They're going to be, they're going to be a team. I say that like it's a bad thing, but no, offensively, I think they will struggle at times. They definitely have a very streaky lineup, but who knows? It's baseball. Anything happens. I think they'll definitely be carried more by their pitching this year to begin the season. So like another new catcher they brought in, Nate Baez, started the spring breakout game, so they're definitely interested in him. He got an invite to spring training. He started the spring breakout game. He's probably going to be their starting catcher. Does he stay in Portland the whole year? We don't know. Do I think he stays in Portland the whole year? No. I think he ends up in Worcester at some point, especially if, say, Jason DeLay doesn't work out and they let him go, or Matt Thice, he opts out, something along those lines. They've only got 2 catchers in Worcester, which we will touch upon in a little. But Frele Encarnacion, he's another guy that they had in the spring breakout game, but that's just because, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not a top prospect. They just do not have first base prospects like Justin Gonzalez. He is in the outfield, expected to be in the outfield this year, but he also plays first, and realistically, he's probably the team's only real first base prospect at this point in time. Like, no offense to anyone else, but it's just there is not a single first base prospect that plays just first base in this organization, and that is something that they're going to have to address eventually. Though for right now, they're fine because they have Contreras at first in the majors, and they also have Casas waiting as he recovers from his own injury. But anyway, they got Liendo at Alcantara, Franklin Arias. That is going to make up one of the best defensive infields between those 3. While Encarnacion may not be of those 3's level, those 3 are going to form like an iron wall from third base to second base. It's going to be so hard to get like baseballs out of the infield unless you hit them in the air. And that's what's going to make them so exciting, their defense. In the outfield, you're going to have, well, this one's a coin toss for me. I'm leaning on the fence. I'm not too sure, but Nelly Taylor, personally, I think he could use another beginning of the year in Greenville. I mean, he doesn't hit very well, but everyone knows that. Greenville last year at 21 years old, 108 games, he hit 216, 355, 349, 133 strikeouts. Now, what comes in for him? Defense and speed. If he could put everything together and hit, he could be an intriguing player. But right now, it's his defense and speed that keeps him moving through the system. And if it's because they need an outfielder, I hope it doesn't ruin his development. Even the other outfielders in there, you got Miguel Bleis, former top prospect who just has not panned out, which is unfortunate. I hope he can put it all together this year. That would be fantastic. Getting back to the hype levels of, 2022 and 2023. when he was a top prospect. Because 23, he gets hurt, and that's when it starts to go down for him. Last year was not a very good year. It just wasn't. Offensively, at least. Defensively, he was fantastic. And every now and then, he shows flashes of what made him a former top 100 prospect. This is a guy who you wonder, did the injuries cause it, or is it just a lack of consistency? Like, man, I would love to see a timeline where he does not get hurt in 23 or 24, and he's able to put everything together. I think the Red Sox would like to see that too. Honestly, I don't know who would be the third outfielder. Maybe they throw Max Ferguson out there just to fill space. Stanley Tucker could see some time there, maybe. It's kind of it, really. I mean, on the bench, you got Ronald Rosario, Drew Erhard, Brooks Brannon, who I was looking forward to. He gets hurt, and now he's not going to be playing for a bit, so forget about that. But this is where the fun with the Sea Dogs comes in. Their rotation. They got Hayden Mullins, who again was another guy we had on this offseason to talk to. John Hollabetz, Eduardo Rivera, Wee Hunt, Dalton Rogers, another guy, which honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like 3/5 of the Portland Sea Dogs rotation, we had a chance to talk to this offseason. So Sea Dogs unofficial fans of the Talk Sox, is that a thing? Can I say that? I don't know if I can officially say that, but I'm gonna make a joke that the Sea Dogs rotation is fans of Talk Sox. Again, those starters, they're gonna be interesting. My question is, how's the bullpen gonna play out? Like, who's gonna make it up? Is Isaac Coffey gonna be down there instead of in AAA this year? Because he ended the year with Worcester. Another guy who we don't know where he's going to be. Jack Anderson, is he going to open in Worcester or is he going to open in Portland? It's just at this point, who's going to fill up the back end, not the back end, but the front end of the bullpen, where you got to get some innings out of them, because you're going to have Cooper Adams on the IL, Max Carlson's on the IL, Matt McShane is going to start on the IL. So those are all guys who might have been able to give you innings that aren't going to. So Portland, fortunately, they have a week to figure it out still. But for those who don't have it, that's the Worcester Red Sox, the AAA team of your Boston Red Sox, the greatest team because they have 4, sometimes 5 mascots, and they do mascot races. Which, by the way, whenever you're at a game and they do mascot races, you better be rooting for Roberto the Rocket, because how do you root against a rocket in a race? All right, with that out of the way, let's get serious again. So obviously, it was announced today, Jake Bennett's going to be down there. Peyton Toley's officially down there. Tyler Uberstein is down there. Those are 3 of your 5 starting spots right there in the rotation. But now that leaves questions of the last 3. Obviously, when they come back on their rehabs, you're going to see Patrick Sandoval and Cutter Crawford there. But right now, they're not going to be pitching anytime soon. I imagine, at least. I could be wrong. Technically, Crawford's IL placement was retroactive back to a while ago, so he could start a rehab assignment. He's not going to pitch, or at least he's not going to start the first 3 games. That was already announced to be Bennett, Uberstein, and Toley, going Friday, Saturday, Sunday, respectively. Honestly, maybe they're not going to put Kelly in the rotation because he's a bullpen arm and they want to keep him like that when they call him up. Samaniego, same thing. They could have Tommy. This is what I hate. Guys' names who I can't pronounce. Tommy Canal. However you say his name. Tommy Canal. Count. However it is. The guy they just signed at the end of spring training. I can't pronounce his name, and it always annoys me, but I know who he is. Okay? It took the Red Sox 4 times to sign him. Anyway, maybe he could be like an opener. Tayron Guerrero, he's not going to be that. They could use Kyle Keller as like a 2-3 inning guy if need be. Same thing with Seth Martinez. Noah Song, they probably wouldn't want to do that. They'd rather let him develop as a 1 to 2 inning reliever at this point of his career. If this was 2019 Noah Song or even 2020 Noah Song, you can bet your bottom dollar he'd be in the rotation. Other guys, Wyatt Olds, Jacob Webb, and Devin Sweet. No way are they touching the rotation. Oh, how'd I forget about him? TJ Sycamore, whose high point of spring training was his first live AB on the backfields, where he faced Roman Anthony, Nate Eaton, Masataka Yoshida, Caleb Durbin, and Sung Chae Ching. I hope I did not mispronounce that. Sung Chae Chang? I think it's Chang. All right. Well, anyway, he looked good against them the first time through, and that was the high point for Sycamore before it all went. Well, I don't want to say it went south, but yeah, it didn't go all too well. He'll probably get innings in the rotation. Again, like I said, Kelly's not. It actually makes me wonder. Red Sox fans, you're probably going to get upset by this, but what if they make Kelly the unofficial closer in Worcester? See how he does in high leverage innings. Like it could be kind of like a make or break in a sense where they decide, all right, if he can't handle high leverage in AAA, he's not going to handle the majors, which I don't want that. I'm a Kelly fan. I was part of the Zach Kelly fan club last year when he came back up in September, and I want to see him do well. But I could see them also saying, like, all right, you're going to get the 9th inning for the time being. Worcester's lineup, you got Theis catching most likely. I mean, he's staying in the organization. You're going to get him his innings because he's not going to want to stay if he's not going to be able to play. Not too sure who's going to get first base. Second base, maybe it's going to be Nick Sogard. I mean, I could be wrong. They could put him at third. They could put him at short. But I think they want to keep Mikey Romero at third. See what he can do. If he doesn't play third well, they'll put him over at second, which in my opinion is his destined position. He's going to end up at second base at some point, I think, just because of his arm. Shortstop is going to be Chang. And then, of course, outfield, you're going to have Ward, Campbell, and Castro. Not to mention Nate Eaton as well, who was sent down. So you've got 4 outfielders right there that are going to rotate between the 3 spots and probably DH. So now, because of that, you have a bench. Jason DeLay, we know, is going to be there, at least to begin the year. Nathan Hickey is going to be there. Vinny Capra to begin the year. So right there, you got 3 guys. Capra, utility to play second, third, and short. Hickey can play first and be an emergency catcher. And Jason DeLay, he's a catcher. Then you got Tyler McDonough, who is a utility player, shortstop, second base, left field, all of that. And then Matt Lloyd, who came over in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. Not too sure where he's going to play. Maybe first. Really, first is either probably going to be Matt Lloyd or Mickey Gasper. I think it's going to kind of depend on what they want to see. Gasper will probably be the starter to begin because he is on the 40-man. Same thing with why Sogard, Chang, Campbell, and Eaton will also be in the lineup probably almost every night. So this weekend is going to be interesting. We're going to be able to see Jake Bennett on Friday, Tyler Uberstein on Saturday, and then Peyton Tolley on Sunday. So we got 3 40-man roster pitchers. Question is, how are they going to perform in the sense of innings? Are the Sox going to want them to keep building up, or are they going to go on a regular expectation? Otherwise, there's not much more to go over on the rosters. This, again, is kind of an introductory podcast episode where we're going to kind of laid it out a little. This week we went over the spring breakout, and we introduced one of our sessions, 3 up, 3 down. As the season goes along, maybe we will have another 1 or 2 that will come into play. I don't really want to say too much, but I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave a like. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on one of our streaming services, please download, like, share. I don't know what else they do. I'm sorry, I'm new to the podcast game, or not game, but I guess world is what I want to say. as you can tell by my rambling and stumbling over my words. Um, Again, I am Nick. I write on Talk Sox. I cover a lot of minor league stuff, and I will be at Worcester for this entire weekend. So our next episode, though, it probably will not be until the other levels start play as well, so that we can go over all the beginning of minor league season. Until then, thank you. Have a nice night. Have a good day if you're in the daytime, and let's talk some more Sox.